Hello and welcome to the Secrets of Happily Ever After. I'm your host, Monica Tanner, and I'm absolutely obsessed with sharing all the secrets that help you write and live out your happily ever after love story. Okay, so today we're talking about physical intimacy, and this is one of my favorite topics ever because we are not yet to sexual intimacy, which of course is a big favorite among my audience, but it is equally, if not more important than actual sexual intimacy. And it partially leads up to sexual intimacy, which is awesome. But if you take away all of the erotic and sexual touch, physical touch and physical affection are absolutely crucial for building safety and trust in your relationship. Now, depending on, some people say your love language, or some people say your level of attachment, depending on your experiences growing up and in different relationships, people have different thresholds and different needs for physical touch, but your body has thousands and thousands and thousands of little receptors all over it, and meaningful, affectionate touch is what bonds us together. And the benefits of physical touch are so much more than I could even go into on this podcast. But just some of the benefits include research showing that couples with a high level of physical touch in their relationship live longer. It also lowers the incidence of depression and anxiety. Couples who touch each other often signal to each other that they are supportive, that they are loving, that they have each other's back. And more than anything, it shows that they desire to be close to you. So let's talk about a few things that I hear so often, especially from the women that I work with. Now, if you are in the throes of motherhood and you have young kids around you all day, I often hear from these clients that by the end of the day, when they see their spouse, they are all touched out. They've been tugged and pulled and sat on and squeezed all day long. And by the time their kids go to bed, they are looking forward to just being all by themselves and not being touched by one more person. Now, I totally understand this. I remember that stage of motherhood very clearly, but it's important to remember a couple of things. One, the touch that your spouse provides you is very different than the touch that comes parent to child. Another thing is to think about the reason why you don't want to receive that touch from your partner. A lot of times we as moms will equate touch with an obligation. We think if we allow our partners to touch or snuggle, that will be obligated to make that into a more sexual touch. And so a lot of us will recoil or avoid that type of just physical affection and touch from our partner because we don't want it to lead to more. And so to those of you who are nodding your head and saying, yes, that's totally what I do, I would challenge you to think about ways in which you could get nourishment and energy from a touch from your spouse. So maybe that means having a conversation like, hey, I would love a relaxing back rub in the evenings, or it would feel so good to me if we could just snuggle without having it lead to more, or a foot rub would be so exciting to me after a long day on my feet with the kids. So it really is just a matter of communicating to your partner what kinds of touch would be beneficial to you in that stage of your life. And here's the thing, I promise you that that stage will not last forever. Your kids will grow up, they'll turn into teenagers, they'll start rolling their eyes at you much more than they'll cuddle and snuggle with you. Now, I have learned that there is a period of time in which most kids won't want to hug and snuggle with their parents as much. And then it seems as though when they're just about to leave the house, they are more accepting of your hugs and physical affection. But even when teenagers claim that they don't want that physical touch, we all need it. So I was that obnoxious mom that is constantly giving my teenagers 8-second hugs. And even though they'll like say, oh, mom, and like make fun of me for it, my senior, when he was talking about the things that really made a difference to him growing up, was that I always was good for an 8-second hug. So these kids, whether they think they need it or not, they need to feel their parents' embrace. So physical affection with your kids is important at every stage, I promise. But getting recharged and renewed by your partner and the physical affection that you can share with them is also so important. So if I could give you a challenge or an assignment, no matter what stage of life that you're in, I want you to think about the types of touch that are exciting to you, whether that's a foot rub, a back rub, holding hands, a long embrace, making out, which is my favorite. I want you to think about the types of touch that are nourishing to you. And then I want you to go and have that conversation with your spouse. Let them know what it is in this season of life that you would really look forward to sharing with them. And then I'm going to give you some ideas of some different ways that you can share that physical affection with your partner, and just play around with this and see how it makes you feel. See if it fills your cup. And then ask your partner the same type of question. Ask them to make a list of types of physical touch and affection that are meaningful to them, that would be nourishing and strengthening to them. And then I would make it a point to try and give your partner those types of touches, even if you have to write it on a Post-it note for yourself, like on your computer or something. If you have to say, okay, as soon as my partner walks in, go give them a 30-second hug, because that is a way to really calm them from their hard day's work and welcome them into our house and show them that I not only love them and support them, but I want to be close to them, right? So figure out what types of touches are meaningful to you, ask your spouse to do the same, and then talk about those things. So here's some ways that you can start applying more physical affection into your relationship. Now, hugs are probably one of the most important ways that I can think of to do this. There's an exercise that some of the great therapists of our day have implemented, and it's called hugging until relaxed. And so this is actually a practice of taking some time, even in a public space. You don't have to be in your bedroom or anything like that, where you want to just hug each other until both of you feel relaxed and you've let all of the thoughts and all of the discomfort and all of whatever is running through your mind just kind of leave, and you're just going to kind of melt into one. And I promise you, this is such a fantastic way not only to relax yourself, but also to disarm your partner. So I suggest doing this daily, but if you can do it every couple of days, that would really, really lower those levels of cortisol and help raise kind of that dopamine and those feel-good chemicals in your brain. It's really amazing. Another great way to bring a little more physical affection into your relationship is to start the morning with snuggles. My husband and I call them morning snuggles. We like to go over the day, but we like to start every morning just united and connected as a couple. And so we roll over in bed any chance we get, and we just snuggle each other. It's kind of our way of signifying that we are a team and that no matter what the day brings, we are here for each other and we've got each other's back and we love to be close to each other. So morning snuggles is one of my favorite ways to show that physical affection for my husband. And then nighttime snuggles are really important too. Sometimes we get really hot at night, so even just touching our feet or even just pinkies, or sometimes I just, reach over and just touch some part of my husband's body as I'm falling asleep. So that's a type of physical touch that's really comforting to me. Now, You can give each other kisses during the day. I think that's really fun when you're watching TV. If you just kind of slide your legs next to each other and your thighs are just touching, is a great way. We don't watch a lot of TV, but there's an ottoman downstairs where we watch TV as a family. And so my husband and I sometimes will be snuggled by our kids in the middle. And so we'll just make sure that our feet are touching. And that's a way that we can show that physical touch to each other. I love Tony and Elisa DiLorenzo. They talk about when he is driving, he loves for her to put her hand on his thigh. It just makes him feel so loved and seen by her. That's something that we do as well. So anytime you're sitting side by side with each other, if you want to just lay your hand on your spouse's thigh, whatever that looks like. Both of you might be doing that or just one of you, but that is a great way to show solidarity, to show support and encouragement. I just think that's such a fabulous way to be physically affectionate with each other in public in a way that doesn't make other people uncomfortable. Another way to be physically affectionate or intimate with each other is to hold hands. You can hold hands when you're walking around your block. You can do it when you're walking into a location together, when you're sitting at dinner. There are so many different scenarios that you go through in a regular day together where you could just be holding hands or even linking pinkies. I always love it when my husband puts his arm around me or plays with my hair. Sometimes if we're in like a long show or a movie, I'll just kind of touch his neck. I love it when I'm sitting, helping my kids with their homework or finishing up work for the day, and my husband will come and rub my shoulders. We've had lots of kind of tutorials where I've had to say, oh, that's too hard or that's too soft. Like at this point, now 20 years into our marriage, he knows like the exact rhythm and strength in which to just rub my shoulders. That feels so great. Sometimes we'll rub each other's feet. I'm not a big foot person. My feet have always been kind of ugly, so I don't love people touching my feet. But after a really long day, if my husband is willing to just rub my feet, that feels amazing. Sensual massage is something that you can get into, but maybe that's more towards next week when we start talking about sexual intimacy. But there are so many renewing, comforting, encouraging, and beautiful ways to physically touch your partner in a way that says, I am here for you. I love you. I want to be close to you. And no matter what happens, I absolutely have your back. So physical affection is so important. And like I said, there's research that shows that couples who are physically affectionate with each other live longer. They report higher levels of marital satisfaction. And not to mention, they are those cute older couples that are shuffling down the road, hand in hand, smiling at each other, that everybody looks at and says, I want that. It's because they've been physically affectionate with each other. And it doesn't have to lead to more. Just because you're physically affectionate with your partner doesn't mean that you're saying, yes, we can go to the bedroom and do more. It's just a way of showing love and concern and support and solidarity. And I promise, as your children see you being physically affectionate with each other, they will feel more at peace and more secure knowing that their parents love and support each other. I know, and when my kids were younger, they'd always, if my husband and I were hugging or kissing in the kitchen or something, they would climb in between us and like want to be right there. Now, as they are teenagers, they will roll their eyes and say things like, get a room, right? But inside, they love it. They love it when we're affectionate with them. So I encourage you to be physically affectionate with your children throughout their lives, even when they're teenagers and they act like they're too cool, and when they're even adults and they come back. I still kiss my dad on the lips every time I see him, and I'm so grateful that he was physically affectionate with me throughout my life. So be sure that you're being physically affectionate with your children as well as your spouse. And remember that it's different. Remember that the affection you show towards your children is different than the affection that you're receiving and giving to your partner. And if you want your children to have a happy, healthy relationship of their own, you have to model that behavior for them. And being physically affectionate with each other is one great way to do that. So my challenge to you after listening to this episode is to write down ways in which you would like to be touched by your partner and ask your partner to do the same. And then I want you to go out on a date this weekend and I want you to share your lists with each other. And I want you to think about, maybe even rate yourselves on like a scale from 1 to 10 on how well you're doing being physically affectionate with each other. Are you getting the touch that you desire? And are you giving that touch to your partner? Have a good long discussion about that and really implement. I promise you will absolutely love the results of that conversation and applying that into your marriage. So that's all I have for you today. Just remember how important physical touch and physical affection is. And I will see you same time, same place next week. Bye for now. To learn more ways to deepen your intimacy and strengthen your relationship, make sure you watch this video next